Welcome to the PropShow, number 22, with Simon Gerrard, McCallion and Peter Ambrose.
Welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We haven't had Christmas yet. Oh, is it 2019?
Yes, remember,
It's 2019.
miserable January already.
Happy New Year.
Everybody's got over Christmas.
Happy New Year, guys.
Yes. We haven't had Christmas yet. Oh shit, not so soon. I get it. So who are these people?
These are at the top of their game, their respective industries.
Go. Let's go. Mal, who are you?
Who are you? What do you do?
Thank you very much indeed. So Mal McCallion, I run a business called Groshen. We are growth execution experts, helping businesses, generally property technology ones, to achieve their goals.
Okay. Awesome.
Peter?
My name's Peter Ambrose. I run the partnership. We're a new type of lawyer. We're very nice.
Nice solicitors.
Nice solicitors. Who heard that?
Simon?
And I'm Simon Gerrard. I run Martin Gerrard Estate Agent, which is the only estate agent south of Grantham.
There you go. I think you're picking the game in North End.
He's not picking the game.
I'm not playing.
Doesn't
Big
like
in the
picking the
industry.
game. Big in the industry.
Okay then. I tell you what, boys. Let's start off with a topical topic, which obviously it's 2019, so Brexit's been sorted. But,
Tick that box. Very
Have
very
we got some
Well done.
Very well.
Very
Okay.
Evening, Prime Minister.
Have we got some interesting stories about Brexit and property market? Simon, in the green room when we were getting drunk,
Yeah.
sipping champagne beer.
I wish
You mean the
we
brown room drinking tea?
Yeah,
There you go. Have you got some interesting stories to share with the world?
Yes, I've got a couple. I did hear an amusing one on the radio as a perfect way out of Brexit. Big problem with Brexit is obviously the billions of pounds that we have to pay over to Europe.
Yes.
Now, you may recall there is a way out of this, because you may recall that when Scotland wanted to leave the UK,
Yeah.
but stay in Europe, they
Yes.
were told they wouldn't be, because by leaving the UK,
Yeah.
they would no longer be in the UK, so they'd no longer be in Europe. So rather than having a referendum or a second referendum, we should actually have a referendum as to whether or not England leaves the UK. then we could actually leave Europe without having to pay a penny.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. That's a good
So,
resolution.
how's it-
Wow.
Okay, so what about the property market? Well, how's it affecting you guys in North London?
Property market is, for us, is still fairly good, but Brexit breeds insecurity, and insecurity, unfortunately, is a little bit like Dutch elm disease to the property market, because it infects all vendors who see the erosion in value of their property and seem to block off any thought of the property they're going to buy and just don't want to sell because it's worth less than it was
I was going to
last
say,
year.
why is it you buy a house for $500,000, it goes up to $1.5 million, and then let's just say the values drop because of Brexit or whatever the current crisis is, and it goes from 1.5 to say 1.2.
Yep.
You've still made a profit of £700,000, but people say they've lost 300. Why? What's all that about?
It's mentality. You say that in when you do buy-to-let evenings and things, don't you? Where you look at the market from the 90s and you look at your market now, and you look at what the actual exponential increase has been.
Yeah.
It's
It
the
might
net.
be, it's
It's kind of like behavioural
One second,
psychology, isn't it?
we're actually feeding the frenzy, because actually there is no profit
No.
unless you're going to bugger off to somewhere else,
But the thing is, though,
another country.
if
You
you're-
don't take
Yeah,
it out
it's-
the system.
but if you're buying and
So you're
selling in the
moving.
same market, then it sort of becomes irrelevant. doesn't it?
Exactly. It's all
Exactly. And
just
if you're
degrees of
moving
ladder,
up
isn't
the
it?
ladder,
Yeah.
then you're actually better off if your property's gone down in value.
Tell us that story you had.
We
about
had a customer, a friend of mine, in fact, who's a reasonably savvy person, and we were talking. He was saying that he was thinking of moving from his 2.5 bedroom house, or 2 rooms and a box room,
Yeah.
to a 3 room
Yeah.
and a box room, because he's got 2 kids. So I said, so why are you going to move? He said, well, we went and we had a look at a couple of houses over in St Albans that looked really good. I said, right. And he said, could you afford it? Yep, we could get a 5 or 10 year fixed rate mortgage, and it was within what we could afford.
Yeah,
I said,
nice.
terrific. Why didn't you move? He said, well, I've called the agent in and my place has gone down by £35,000.
That's amazing.
That's
Amazing.
So that's it. It's not moving.
It's a good
Not moving.
There's a really, really good book by Daniel Kahneman called Thinking Fast and Slow, and it's all about kind of loss aversion and how human beings, it's that psychology. It's actually people just think, they don't think about the gains or anything like that. They're always about, oh, well, last week it was like worth that. And now if it's not, then I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
How's it gone for you, Peter, at the minute? What's your thought on the
Well,
market?
he's quite got finger on the pulse because he works for over 200 agents.
And you write for the Industry Eye.
We do. I do. Very, very popular.
What, you or the Property Industry Eye?
No, I mean, we've seen it over the last 2 years. We've certainly seen people get a lot more cautious, and they pull out of deals for the most ridiculous reasons. Basically, if it takes a little bit too long, anything like that, it's definitely getting twitchy. I mean, we're always positive and upbeat because that's how we roll. But no, it's tricky. And as I say, the key thing is keeping everybody smiley.
Do you think Brexit's having a massive impact? Do you think it's having this thing, or do you think, because we were saying beforehand in the green room, if you like, about almost a north-south divide in terms of people's feel towards the market?
Well, we're mostly London and the southeast, and from what I've seen and everything I've read in terms of numbers and transactions, the Midlands and the North are doing significantly better in terms of volumes and transactions and so forth. So certainly we've seen in London, but we've seen this for a couple of years now. In London, where things have definitely got more fragile. We're seeing agents having to work a lot harder. Deals are taking longer. Our deals are taking, we did some maths the other day, about 15% longer than before. Wow. So it's definitely taking longer. But the fall-through rate is okay.
Are you finding this?
We're finding things are taking longer. It very much depends how engaged the buyer is, who is in the chain. Our biggest frustration is those deals where there is another agent in the train, because all this talk of Brexit is wonderful, but it's a
perpetuating.
It is, and I think the best agents are just not having the conversation. We don't talk about Brexit because what difference does it actually make?
Well, none, because pre or post Brexit, people are
still need houses.
Still need houses, and they're still going to own them.
Divorce debt, it's going to happen. People have to move.
Mal, what, you're big in prop tech. What do you do, and what does your software do, and does that have any bearing on the market locally?
No,
nationally?
So I work with a number of different companies, and a lot of them are finding that the solution they're putting into estate agents are intended to smooth things over and speed things up. But one of the challenges is integration. So actually, you can come along with a solution, but until and unless it actually fits neatly into what the agent's doing, particularly around now, then that becomes part of a bigger problem. So my work with them a lot is, how do you make sure the integrations happen? How do you make sure it becomes part of the deal? Because technology on its own never solves anything.
True.
Technology needs people to be associated with it. You were talking about your business. All of the time you need that human interaction, and then slowly but surely you then automate the bits that are repetitive. And
so your role is more of an integration. So you're not. Do you have your own prop tech, or is it more that you work with businesses to help them to work out what they're using, how they're using it, how to improve usage, and how to get maximum value? So say, for example, I don't know, One Dome or Repeat. One Dome. Sorry, I mentioned One Dome.
You've got to. Still on, Peter. Come on.
He's not doing it.
I'll hold it back.
It's 2019. One Dome. Okay, thanks, Adam. Cheers, One Dome, for the sunglasses.
You said specifically
I
you weren't going to wear those.
I said I
We're
would
not going to wear those.
Yondell socks. There you go.
Thank you so much.
They don't have a song. Maybe Yondell should have a song. But no, going back to the question. So you work to integrate things.
Thanks, Nick, for the U-Move Cup.
And also,
we're done now.
Ian and Kevin, please.
If you are a prop tech firm and you want to get free advertising, this is Kevin.
Amazing.
Landed New Homes Network.
Nick Neal.
There you go.
Send us some tests.
SCL. This is Shep.
And whose is this?
That's my fez.
Oh, that would be quite an interesting one from marketing perspective.
Alan the Batman.
There you go. Just make sure you put the graphics in.
But no, going back to the question.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
So do you find, because Chris has got this thing where he says that a lot of
80%.
It's always a number.
It's always 80%.
80%.
It's always 80%.
It's always 80%.
Basically, Chris has got this feel that a lot of prop tech is irrelevant.
It's nonsense.
Is basically there to solve problems that agencies don't have.
Quite.
Absolutely.
And that is something that he stands by.
Yeah.
However, there are some really, really good pieces of software that do make things go. And we were saying beforehand in the green room about Rightmove. And actually, they get quite hard pressed often for increases in price whilst...
Well, they've got a brand bucket. Did you not know this?
They've
got this big brand bucket with numbers in.
Yes.
And what they do is they grab a number and bring it out and say, that is what you're paying next.
Of course it is. But how much was a full page of newspaper advertising 10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
£1,000 a week.
Yeah, and actually, I think they're on record as saying that that's kind of in their minds about, until it gets to that point, then actually they're still saving agents money. And that, I think, is really where kind of technology can play a part, and I think has been a benefit to agents over a long period of time.
Agents get very hung up on the cost of things.
Yes.
Whereas what they should look at is whether or not it benefits them.
Value.
And how the value actually works.
Yes.
Has got an inordinate amount to do with implementation.
Yes.
Yes.
What happens is, whether it be Rightmove, whether it be Zoopla, whether it be Brief Your Market, whether it be anybody, it's about how you implement it and how you use it. And whether you incorporate it into your systems that the staff are using so that it benefits them because repeatedly they're using it.
Yeah.
If that happens and you have got the right combination of prop tech that integrates and is simple and doesn't mean that for everything that a member of staff has to do, they have to do 5 equal and opposite other things, that it's done in one place and it integrates and updates them so it's simple for them to use, it feeds them what they need, and if they're hungry then they can make good money as long as they just use the tech they've got, which is simple.
Fantastic.
It really is good, isn't it?
I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll tell you what, let's have Ask the Prop Show and let's get some top tips from each of our guests about their market. So it's time for Ask the Prop Show. Welcome to 2019.
I'm not quite sure.
The business story.
Anything Christmas.
But there's no water anywhere, so it's okay.
So what I'd like to do, as we've got 3 guests, is get top tips from each of you. So, top tips for lettings and estate agents in 2019, how to thrive in a difficult market.
Ensure that your staff are integrated within your system so that you're making the most of everything you get.
Fantastic.
Kill him with the stat. Kill him with the stat.
Which stat?
You're going to a stat bucket.
Which stat?
Stat bucket!
We can have a stat bucket. We can have a stat bucket. I can get a stat bucket.
Okay. Right. There was a very, very well-known automated valuation model. You know, the instant 30-second valuation.
I've heard of such a thing.
Yes. Okay. And they mystery shopped a good 150 estate agents, where they actually sent them out I'd like a free valuation.
Yes.
And over 30% never came back to them. I mean, come on.
That's it.
That's disgusting.
So your second top tip could be follow up your leads.
That's
an
awesome idea.
Because telling staff to follow up their leads ain't going to make it happen.
What will make it happen?
So what you do is that you make sure that you've got a bucket to catch that. So you make sure you've got a client services department or an area away from the office that is sweeping up the valuations that you're missing, that is sweeping up any of the inquiry, so that actually the staff get off their backsides and they do it, because if they don't, somebody else will do it and earn the money.
That's why he's a top agent, just saying.
And this is really, that's coming to the whole kind of...
It's top of his game.
And third, just one third tip.
Not brain surgery.
One third tip.
Pardon?
1/3 top tip.
I thought it was 1 from each person.
No, I'm going to have 3. I'm greedy.
You're the best at this.
I'm greedy. I want 3
as well.
You have to be Madonna. Always reinvent yourself and keep an eye out for what's out there. Don't sit back on your laurels and say, we're the best.
Fantastic.
You can't do that.
Fantastic. Peter.
Yes.
2019.
Yes.
Changes to the market. Tenant fee ban. Brexit. Contracting market. What are your 3 top tips for legal?
Top tips for agents when it comes to lawyers. First of all, make sure you get the good guys on board. We just heard from an agent in Bow just this morning, actually, who said a client turned up, said, I've already got my lawyer. And they were like, oh, usual thing, typical family lawyer, always use them. And they said, please use someone else, please use one of our recommended guys, and so forth. They didn't listen to the agent. So first mistake, the agent didn't control the deal, sell the property, sell the lawyer. They went with the other person 6 weeks in, made a terrible mistake. I wish I'd used your recommendation. So my number one tip would be to an agent, make sure you put more effort and more focus and have more confidence to be able to suggest to clients, use a recommended lawyer.
Okay, top tip 2.
Top tip 2, keep everybody calm. Everybody needs to calm down. There's a lot of excitement at the moment.
You must have a week somewhere.
We do have a week.
I think we've seen over the last 6 months a lot of clients getting really, really aggy.
Yes.
And what they do is they wind up the agent. Everyone gets a bit spooked. And what I would say to agents is, you've seen this before.
Yeah.
You've seen it before. Please take the steam out of the situation and say to the client, you might think it's the end of the world, but A, it's just a house, and B, I've seen it before. So calm down. It's all going to be fine.
Awesome. Top tip 3.
Top tip 3. Make sure the reasons why you're calling a lawyer are good reasons.
Oh, is that chasing up the same?
So just as an add-on, what are those reasons?
Well, just for
Can I
example,
have an update?
Well, don't do that. Don't really stop doing that. If you think I'm going to pick up the phone and go,
After a week,
can I get an update? Just go.
Hello?
Don't do that, okay? Have a good reason to call. Maybe one other thing. Actually, I can have 4. Can I have 4?
Sorry, I'm going to jump in on yours because I think it is vital that the staff actually understand the sales process.
Oh,
I was going to
Too
say
many
that.
agents out there who haven't got a clue
Steal my
what
thunder.
the sales process is.
Steal my
And a
thunder.
good set of lawyers will make sure that if you know what's needed, then you know what to ask.
I think there's some free training on the Rightmove Hub,
The Rightmove
and I just
Hub.
want to say for the record that I do love Rightmove. I think it's damn good value for money
Yes.
as long as you use it well.
And
Yes.
use the hub, because if you go to Rightmove, the hub at Rightmove, there's some webinars that I ran last year
Okay,
with
should we
Rightmove.
put a link to your webinars?
Yeah, Rightmove Hub.
Right here, hang
Rightmove
on.
Hub.
There we go.
That is really cool.
Special effects. Special effects.
I like the noise. The noise was the best
Thanks very
one.
much. Mal, going back, your top 3 tips.
Yeah, so and you mentioned it before. It's about kind of technology that's there that's not solving a problem.
Yeah.
That's actually it's a solution without a problem.
Big.
So absolutely, do not end up in a situation where you're trying to plug so many different things in, and actually that's just ending up taking your time, your energy out of actually doing what your day to day is.
Yeah.
So the technology is good, but there is some bad stuff out there as well.
Okay.
So that's the first one. Second up, really gun at what your advantages are. So actually utilize again the technology to emphasize what's good about you. So one of the clients we're working with is Move Nation. Specifically, it's about trying to get articulate what traditional estate agency is all about and compare it with other models as well.
Right.
And that, I've been working on it for a few months now, and it's really kind of key for us to help traditional estate agents to really showcase what it is that they do and how they're different to some of the cheaper models out there. So that's another thing is help that marketing.
Back to the
Get the marketing out there and make sure the messaging is clear and concise, because there is a lot of difficulty I think that a lot of agents find in just being able
Maybe
to.
we could
to
ask that question a bit further later in the show.
Okay. And finally,
Final piece is keep an eye on those costs. Actually, one of the things we really focus on in Aversion about the growth side of things is it's not all about just getting more revenues. And perhaps particularly this year, it's 2019, right?
Yeah.
This year is going to be a lot about how it was amazing, yeah.
Very good. Still got a bit of hair.
It's the 19th or something.
Good
it was a good hangover.
So keep an eye on the costs, and yes, of course, people will be thinking about what the impact that's going to be on staffing and things like that as well. Technology can fill a bit of that gap.
Yeah.
So look at what you're doing often, frequently. Can you automate that by using some very
I think automation's the key. Like you
Fantastic.
said, use it sensibly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll do for us, the prop show. Should we find out what our man on the ground thinks, Matthew?
Let's go and see what Steve says.
Steve says market's very slow.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, Steve.
I've
I've got one, and it comes up from time to time in these shows, but we've got 3 esteemed guests in there today. What's your views on, not just in general, but employing millennials? You 3 employ people.
Say yes,
It's a broad brushstroke.
It's a necessary evil. No, it happens It happens every. It just happens.
Generational thing.
Is it really a case of just managing?
No,
them?
it's more a case of trying to understand what the term means, because it means different things to a lot of people, and it's an expression that anything that crappy young people do, that's a millennial.
Yeah.
Snowflake.
Let's not go into that. So I think what you have to look at is, what do you mean by millennial? Now, millennials are more flexible, they move around more, they're more fickle.
Yes.
Having said that, that doesn't mean they're not looking for a career. They are money focused, they're not thing focused.
Yeah.
They like experiences rather than having goods. The latest fashion, they'll spend stupid money on a belt rather than eating and things like that. But that's millennials for you. There's very little you can do about that. What you need to understand is how they work within your business, and how they can make your business work.
Yeah.
What top tips do you have?
Well, the top tips is to understand where they're coming from. They can't have everything, but you need to feed what they want. And there are, as there are in any group of people, a very good group of millennials who are very focused, very much a lot of the time on money. I would say millennials up to the age of about 27, I think they're up to 30, but up to in their 20s are more finance focused, whereas when they get into their 30s, they're more career focused, and it's less about the money and more about how they are reckoned.
But I would argue that that's no different.
Yeah, that's
I don't
a
think-
generational thing.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
It's just going to come through.
It is slightly, because they are forced more and more to either live at home, whereas
'cause
in
of cost,
previous generations they moved out and they rented on their own and they could afford it. Now they live at home, so they have a lot more disposable income sometimes, that they're not necessarily always saving, because they like to spend it, and they like to be able to move around. So you need to be able to focus what you do to make things easy, to feed the way they do things, so that you're working with them to achieve the best for your business.
What top tips have you got for the bosses out there in estate agency land? To spot good ones.
Listen to your staff. Get somebody else, because you'll very often find that when you're asking the question, they will answer how you want them, how they think you want to answer. So getting outside people in to dig a little bit is a cost, but it may help with your staff retention.
But Peter, you employ a lot of millennials in inverted commas. A lot of 20-somethings. But going back to that point, I don't think I was any different. I'm in my early 20s. I'm in my mid-30s now.
Really?
I know. Stop. But he thinks I was 40 up. But no, I remember at the very start of my career in newspaper journalism, and it was all about, I was living at home after university, and it was very much about spending, having a good time, enjoying my job.
Toasting.
No, that's a bit new age for me. But I don't think priorities have shifted loads.
I think the big difference, and again I can only speak from London and the South East, the big difference now is it's really difficult for certainly the people that work for me to have goals of buying a property.
Right.
They can't have any goals, and I get it. I have children that are millennial, because they say, well, I can never afford it. The view is I can never afford it, so therefore let's just live life for now.
Yeah.
And I think the key to it, one of my top tip for millennials, is getting them up and running really quickly. We've changed our way. We used to spend much longer absorbing people into the workplace, taking longer. Now it's like, crack on. So you get them up and running, challenge them more, because you wouldn't have employed them, and challenge them more, because if you keep them for a year and a half, great, get the most out of them as you can. I think anyone that says, I expect someone to be here for 5 years is kidding themselves.
Yes.
So my tip would be, get them productive, throw them into the deep end, let them crack on with it.
Yes.
And that seems to work.
I do think, I'm not 100% with you, because I do think that if you invest in them, because there are a large percentage of them that want to learn and want to progress and earn as much money.
Well, you've got to teach
They
them.
very often think that it's all about the money, but if you scratch a little bit, they do want some progression.
I think that this comes down to the whole thing. There's obviously different types of millennials, just the different types of 40-year-olds, that sort of stuff. But I think that you're right. The kind of the lack of investment in the future, kind of, do they have that goal? They're vested in society.
How about? I mean, what about these millennials that have only been there 6 months, but they feel they're bored and they're not making a difference? I mean, I work with a really interesting, one of my clients is called Home.Rent, and everybody there is under the age of kind of 28. Right? And there's probably about 30, 40 of them. And it's a really buzzy kind of environment, really great, generally quite stable. So the business has been around for two and a half years. And they love it, but it's very much an experience type event, type process they do. So they buy into that very, very quickly. And it's easy to kind of patronise and say, right, oh, they do this, they do that. I think as a business, with a focus on how do you make tenants great, they really get it and they buy into that.
So more then about your feel.
But what I must say though, and I think companies need to wake up on this. I think the problem that we've got is that a lot of businesses look at younger people particularly, go, they're fickle, they're not going to stay, and they don't invest time in them. The biggest challenge I have is when I employ people, they've not been taught anything. And I know why companies do it, because they go, well, they're not going to stay. I don't really care. I think if you've got people in there, you've got to train them.
But do you think that rather than having this view of they're not going to stay, they're not going to give me value, they're not going to give me what have you, I'm not going to invest my time in. If you take Richard Branson's view, which is to train people to a point where they are able to leave you,
absolutely,
but treat them in such a way as that they don't want to leave you, do you think more than, whether it's a money thing or whether it's not a money thing, if it's an experience thing and it's a young person's thing, and I'm the same, I like new experiences, I enjoy doing new stuff. Do you think it's more about rewarding your staff in different ways? So rather than the cash,
they like social events.
Sending them to a spa for a day.
You've definitely got to make more effort. You've got to make more effort. But I think the big difference is you do have to invest in teaching them. Okay, and when they're learning, but we've had people in the past after 6 months. Well, I can do this now.
Yes.
Now there are some times where you go, if you have that mindset, so be it. Then time to go.
Yes.
If that's what you choose. I mean, for example, in our
but that's not a change.
It's always been. You've always had people like that. You're right. You're right.
Yes.
That's always been the case, and I think that within the business that we're in, or within property, there's always been a reasonable turnover at a certain level.
Of course.
Because there are a certain number of agents that do the rounds and go from place to place who want an easy life and aren't prepared to do X, Y, and Z.
But that's not different to any other industry.
But no, they're the recruitment agent's dream. The gift that just keeps giving.
Another conversation. But I think you're right. I think going back to the kind of the different type of rewards that they want to get. So again, using him as an example, they take them away for weekends.
Yes.
Just have like a big pie and a stay at home. And they do work stuff on there at the same time. They went away to somewhere in Spain earlier on this year as well. And it's just a real kind of team building thing, but it gives them that experience.
I think it's Instagrammable stuff.
I was going to say they can post on social media and say, look what I'm getting at my work. Not just the money.
I think the biggest problem, the biggest difficulty for employers who are just finding themselves in this position is that if you go back 10, 15 years, you paid somebody a salary and they came to work.
Yes.
You paid them a commission if they did sales.
Yes.
And everyone was very happy.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there is such an expectation from employees about incentives for this and that and the other, and there's an expectation that they will get paid all these extras, whether it be a gift or extra money or this or that, or I'm one of the top performers, why aren't I better looked after? Well, you get 10, then 15, then 20% commission, you're earning a bloody fortune. Yes, but you haven't bought me a nice present to tell me how nicely I'm doing. It is a mindset for employers more than anything else to actually understand where they're coming from. And it's not just what it feels like, a constant piss take. It is a mindset that you need to get around.
Give them 9, 14 and 19% increases and save that 1% on a gift for them. I
mean, that's it. I think you're
all the
exactly
reports say
right.
money's not everything, is it?
No,
it's about how you feel. It's about not just existing.
Back to
Maslow. It is. It's back to hierarchy needs, Maslow, back to disc profiling, back to your people, back to your personal feel about a certain.
Actualisation.
Good.
But yeah, but
That's
I'm,
really good.
I'm no
Should
different.
we move on to the next one?
Yeah, we're bored of
It's a
that.
Maslow.
We're bored of
It's a
that.
Maslow service. This is great.
We talked all about
Online versus high street.
Hey, we've done that one before.
I was going to do the other one, but we'll do online versus. No, you do online versus high street.
Okay.
Because
Let me think of a subject.
Online versus high street.
But we-
Go-to.
Yeah, in the green brown room, we were chatting earlier, weren't we, about what is a hybrid?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everyone's got slightly skewed, like
It's an electric car, isn't it?
Yeah.
Purple Bricks actually described themselves as a hybrid, which I
Yeah.
thought was really interesting.
Well,
It's
we've
in there
had-
in the annual report.
We've had this over the last few weeks. We've seen some people, a few different people. We had
Nick,
Nick
Yeah,
Neil,
Neil.
from
You
UMove,
Move.
who described them, who they describe themselves as a hybrid, because whilst they're an online agent, they don't take fees up front. We had Matt Wells from North Yorkshire, who described himself as a hybrid because he takes part of his fees up front, and then when he sells property, he gets more fees. Then we had someone else who tried to describe themselves as a hybrid because they took the fees up front, but hang on, what was the other one?
You've got so many.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm confused about hybrids.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing, or is it just a buzzword?
Well,
It's
as a hybrid
different
lawyer,
words, different
as a
processes.
hybrid lawyer,
Hybrid lawyer, yeah.
lawyer, we have an online presence and everything's done online, but we still charge fantastic fees
Great.
fantastically
So,
fantastic.
why are you a hybrid lawyer?
because we have a mixture. Because I think hybridity comes from the
Ooh,
idea.
is that a word?
No, it's not a word.
We're going to.
I think
Hybridity.
Wikipedia.
I think a hybrid it suggests a mixture, and I don't think it's about whether you pay or not. It's the experience that you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, the difference between an online and a traditional is online says I'm going to basically be behind a firewall. I'm going to be technology driven.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to be. Whereas high street says I've got local expertise. I've got real people. So my view about hybrid has got nothing to do with price. It's all to do with
the traditional
the people.
agent still does all of that as well.
Exactly. That's why it's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with experience. So a hybrid is a mixture of the person that says, okay, I'm going to be online with all that kind of tracking stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I have local people that go out, do the viewings, do the progression, because that's nice.
Yeah.
But basically have people to do the work. Really? Well, high street doesn't do progression.
No, High Street does, online
Well,
doesn't.
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. And that's why it's a hybrid.
I mean,
It's a mixture.
what sort of percentage have the onliners or hybrids got? Because Nick said there's an awful lot of people that have got
6 to 7%, I think, nationally, isn't it? On
6
average.
to 7, that is
Yeah.
not 67.
Not
67%.
67.
But in some areas, like if you go to Leeds or places like that, then it's 12%. You know, it
really?
depends. Yeah, some urban areas,
Really?
and a lot of it actually depends. And again, coming back to whether it's the tech or the people, it depends how good that local property expert
yeah,
is.
exactly,
Because
yeah.
that person is who does the deal.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Other
so
experts on
Just
it.
under that.
what about these estate? I mean, let's be honest. Countrywide, come on, let's go over and
How they
done.
doing,
How
mate?
much are your shares worth, Chris?
9.5p. Thank you.
I didn't even say anything.
For those who don't know, it bought a lot higher.
a lot higher.
You couldn't have bought them a lot lower.
No, you couldn't.
Yeah, I bought them also a bit lower. Just trying to
okay.
good money after that.
Cool, doubling up,
Just
yeah.
pass me that just quickly. The little box. The little, that one there. Yeah.
There you go.
We have a sound effect for Chris.
Just have a
shares.
sound.
Excellent.
Chris's shares.
Now, interestingly, Countrywide set up their own online agency, but under their same brand, and that bombed to hell.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, isn't it? So unless you can actually quarantine your core brand that you have spent so much time building up over time, and make sure that that's seen as the premium quality service. Now, in my mind, it's really quite simple. There's one that is a cheap, and we talked about value versus cheapness before.
Yes.
So if you want to pay that, then this is what you get. And one of the things we're doing at Move Nation is trying to be really clear about those two things. One is, if you pay 849, this is what you get for it.
Get
If
a
you want to
listing
pay
service with extras.
Yes.
Yes.
Or do you want a full service
full
agent?
fats,
But
and
we
all
can't.
you can eat,
on the
whatever
phone,
it is.
yeah.
Move Nation, which get Golden Plug Award.
Golden plug. It's so good. It's on fire. Okay.
So let's just do a little bit of plug for Move Nation, because that's why you're here. So what is Move Nation and what can it offer high street agents?
Well, essentially, it is that kind of crystal clarity on behalf of vendors of what you're going to get if you decide to go down one route or another. So if you think that you are the kind of person who likes to try and do it themselves, and I've sold my car once online and therefore I'm going to be able to sell my house, if you want to make that leap, then here is an option for you. I went to holiday online once, so it must be.
Must be fine.
But those people traditional estate agents perhaps are not getting on those market appraisals because that customer is making that decision right from the get-go, watching telly, going, "That's me."
Yeah.
But they don't understand that you don't get the full service for that price.
No.
Going back to the countrywide thing.
No.
So what we're trying to do is to focus. Say right, if you want that. The cheaper option, the self-service option, as we think of it, then it's 849. It's under Move Nation. It's under Move Nation brand. Under Move Nation brand. Come and get that.
So,
and then,
but
then we'll have the traditional estate agent follow.
Yeah. So you go onto the Move Nation site and you get two options: online, or
self-service,
listed, or full agent.
Yeah.
Okay. You then say, "I would like to have a valuation."
Yeah.
The beauty that you have with Move Nation is, unlike with Purple Bricks and others, where they will have a local property expert who is generally a failed estate agent from somebody.
Fairly cruel.
That's fairly accurate. Okay.
All opinions are their own.
who deal with a 50-mile radius of which they have total knowledge and expertise of the full 50-mile radius, because that's understood.
We've all got access to Rightmove.
Yeah, but Rightmove doesn't really well. That's their saving grace. That said, or do you get a local agent who deals with a 3-mile patch,
and
knows his area, to tell you the value? So that person will come round and they will tell you, right, this is the value of your property. You have an option. You've said that you'd like a valuation for the full service. So we tell you all about the full service.
Yeah.
Or you've asked for a valuation
under their own independent
under the brand of the leading agent that only Move Nation are working with. Then you've got the other side of the coin that they'd like to try the listing option with other added extras that they can have with it, because they'd like the cheaper option. So we say, okay, fine, you can go with that, and we sign them up to that. You then walk away and you allow that to live its course. However, you have all of their details. So 3 weeks down the line, when one person's come round, because we're not actually in the summer of 2017 anymore, we're actually in 2019, where the market's gone a bit, and you've actually got to work hard to make appointments rather than list it and they queue up outside.
Yeah, sure.
So you actually have to work for the appointment. So they can't sell it. So we speak to them and we say, let us come round again. Let me explain to you the difference. Let me show you the list of buyers that we have looking in your area. And if you'd like to move from the one option to the other, you can.
Okay, so how are you getting people to this Move Nation website? Because let's be honest, Easy Property sold their licenses to the guild members, and they're not spending any money driving people to their
Absolutely.
So what makes you?
It's absolutely critical. So we know, and I think the two things that have become evident from the onliners, as we'll call them, is number one, consumers will respond to advertising at scale. So they will actually respond. To build. Purple is the biggest brand. Estate
Good advertising.
Yopa's. For sure. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not necessarily always the advert, but where the advert's placed.
Exactly. We've got so much around that. So that's the key
we're
thing.
going to be talking later in the green room or
Do check that
whatever
out as well.
room.
But that's so that the advertising at scale is important. Also, the technology is important. So how are we going to do this? So we have access via some of our partners to a lot of the city type city investment and so on. So that's really where we're going to go and get it. If we don't secure that, then other things happen along the way. But fundamental to everything that we are focused on is the consumer. Right? Consumers, vendors, putting them in control of making that decision and not dictating to them, you are either a online person or you are either a traditional offline person. So we're giving them that choice.
Excellent. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Can I ask the final question of Peter, please?
Wait a second. Just wait for the light.
We're just going to get, sun's back out there.
Fantastic. Lovely. I was cooling off there for a second.
Minor technical.
It's fine.
Take that out, Jess.
Don't take it out, Jess. Leave it in. Leave it all in. Leave it all in, Jess.
One final question for Peter. Peter, earlier on, we were sitting on the sofa and chatting away, and he was talking about how middlemen or panel solicitors have actually potentially ruined UK estate agents.
Well, why don't we have that as a little excerpt for the show?
No, because you won't have it done in time.
Yes, we will.
No,
Yeah, we're talking January 2019 now.
You're not going to get it edited in time.
Of course we are.
You're not going to know which one it is.
Of course we are.
All right, then we'll drop it.
We'll have it now.
Are referral fees to estate agents from conveyancing deals ruining the industry?
Absolutely.
Tell me more.
We focus mainly on London and the South East. We've certainly seen a reticence in terms of buyers being more cautious. They're looking for any excuse to walk away. It's definitely got more challenging, and we've definitely seen volumes per individual agent going down. What we haven't seen is we haven't seen fall-through rates go up. They're staying steady with our business. However, we are seeing deals taking much longer, and that's been a big difference. And certainly that's
Why are they taking much longer?
Combination of factors. I think you've got fewer lawyers that know what they're talking about. I think definitely lawyers are taking longer over deals. We always work the national average being about 16 weeks. We work to that. I heard the other day that the government's now coming out with figures of 19 weeks.
It's a long time.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, 20 years ago, it was 8 to 12 weeks.
It's ridiculous. My view is it'll only take longer. We do hear people blaming mortgage lenders. We don't see big problems with mortgage lenders at the moment. Their turnaround times are fine. What we do see is people carrying higher caseloads and things taking longer, and we're certainly seeing this in our transactions.
When you say higher caseloads, what sort of caseloads are these solicitors doing?
Well, we regularly employ people who come from high volume firms. These caseloads can be anything between about 80 to 150 cases. In some instances, took on someone from a Kent firm recently. She was running 150 cases by herself.
What does that actually mean to estate agents, the caseload number?
It will have a massive impact on how fast your deal will go through. The longer a deal takes, as you know, more likely it is to fall apart.
So really, because things are taking much longer to go through, agents are not getting paid as quick.
Absolutely.
So probably, what are you saying that one of the big questions estate agents should ask is, how many properties do you run in your caseload?
Absolutely.
What does good look like?
I think good luck. I mean, we as a company, we run, our lawyers always have 55 cases between two of them. Okay, that's a low caseload.
And is that two solicitors or one solicitor and one?
One solicitor and one assistant. Full-time, both full-time. Again, that's another problem that people have. You've got a lot of part-time workers in the conveyancing industry. How many times do I speak to agents? They call up, oh, they only work 2 days a week. Okay, it's really problematic. The number of cases that people work have a direct impact on the speed and the likely outcome of a case.
Do you think that's the one thing that could change sales going through quicker?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if lawyers started charging appropriate fees, it all comes down to price.
Okay. Do you think what's happened is that fees have been driven down so much? Yeah. That basically solicitors have had to increase their caseloads to make it worth their while?
Absolutely, yeah. The rise of the panel manager, they've driven down fees. We typically hear fees in the region of £200 to £300, okay, to run a case. They are driven down by the panel managers. We see this, we're approached all the time by panel managers, driving down fees. All that means is an increase in caseload. And an increase in caseload, what does that result in? Poorer service, can't talk to the agents, can't talk to the clients, can't get the deals through.
And these panels are basically like middlemen between the agents and the...
They're intermediary companies. Intermediaries who claim to be able to give consistent volumes of work to the law firms, but actually all they're doing is enabling money for themselves, taking a skim for themselves.
Oh, and the money's got to come back to the agent as well, because they want their...
The agent, obviously, we don't disagree with referral fees. I don't have an issue with that as long as they're proportionate. The problem is when you start seeing these situations with a lot of panel managers where both them and the agents are being paid more than the lawyer, then what you're going to see is, forget whether it's fair, equitable, I don't care about that. All it means is that they're going to have a higher caseload. It's very straightforward. If you're being paid £300 per case as opposed to 800 or 900, you've got to do 3 times the number of cases. Very simple.
So probably it's quite short-sighted, that.
I think so from the agent. We have seen agents moving away from that. We've come back. We've re-instructed about 4 or 5 large regional firms now of estate agents, whereby they've tried going down that route. They found it had a negative impact on their exchange rate, and they've come back to us.
So they went that way because they thought they'd earn more money.
Earn more money, yeah, from referral fees. And what they didn't work out, they didn't do the maths to say, okay, if I get an average commission of between £3,000 and £5,000, how is that going to be impacting me by not getting the deal through? If you're being paid £300 or £400 referral fees, that's 10 deals. You could lose the value of that just by one deal not going through.
And especially if the volume's much lower, which they are.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Peter. That's fascinating.
See, told you.
Well done, Peter. You're not very confident.
Awesome. Right, well, that's everything.
This could be an hour long, especially if we don't wrap.
Yeah, so I think that
We fixed everything now.
I think that's
Yeah,
all
pretty much.
we fixed everything now.
Yeah.
So that leaves us to say thanks a million to our wonderful guests. Thanks,
million?
thanks,
It's only £3.
thanks for making your way to North London, otherwise known as the mighty Grantham.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks a million for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
And,
Cheers.
Have a great
Have a great
2019.
2019.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Started
Don't
amazing.
speak good so far.
Really well.
So that leaves us just one thing to say, doesn't it?
Shalom!